Hello everyone and welcome to another video of the Sky channel. So this video is going to be about the Iron Elephant and the way it has shaped the new Guardian meta. At the same time, we're also going to talk about the free-to-play Guardian meta, which doesn't involve the Iron Elephant. But let's start with the Iron Elephant, which is a very big damage dealer for Guardians, which is definitely something that Guardian players were missing. We're going to start with the simple skills. So 25% extra normal attack damage, which is normal. Here in skill number 6, we're talking about attack, defense 36%, 24% damage, and 18% health, and of course 75% normal attack damage, which is nothing too interesting here either. Then in skill number 7, you're getting attack, but you're getting 120% for all of the Guardian troops in your unit, which is of course amazing, and it is aligned with the most recent ants that came out. Now if you know, this number does change over time, and as new ants are released, the number keeps going up. After a few more months, maybe 120 is going to go up to 144 or 150 as they keep on releasing new and better ants every few months. The attack and defense also going up to 144, which is again aligned with the most recent ants, but if you go just a few generations lower, you'll notice it was 120, and if you go even lower than that, you'll notice that it was 86. So as I mentioned before, as they keep releasing newer and newer ants, these base stats do keep going up to make sure that these ants are better than previous generations. So the ant you buy today is definitely not going to be very strong a few months after. That's just the way it works. It works the same way with insects as well. But for now, this is the highest stats that you can get from any of the ants. Now we're going to talk about the special skills. Skill number 2, 70% chance to trigger, and of course I'm only focusing on the max level effect here. At the cost of 20% damage to its own squad, it deals 320% damage to 2 random enemy squads, and it's guaranteed to critical, and it also deals an additional 30% damage to shooter ants. So we're talking a 70% chance, which is a very high chance, and then 640% damage in total, but it's guaranteed to critical, and I don't really know how much extra damage a critical will do, but it will definitely add some extra damage. And then not just that, if you are facing shooters, which is a very common enemy to face, right? There's a lot of shooters out there, especially the people with Guardian shooter meta, you're dealing 30% extra damage. So this is a very powerful skill, and it deals a lot of damage, and I think it can really harm the current Guardian shooter meta because it's targeting 2 units, so at least one of them is going to be a shooter, if not both. Next, skill number 5. In rounds 2, 4, and 6, 80% chance, again you can see a very high chance to deal 590% damage to all enemy squads. Not just 2, now it's talking about all. As you can imagine, that's a lot of damage, right? 590% to each of the enemy squads. That's almost 1800% damage in total, and that's not it. It also has a 50% chance to silence them, disabling their combat skills for 1 round. Absolutely crazy, right? The damage itself is insane, and then you're adding the 50% chance to silence them, making them partially useless for 1 round. As you can imagine, a very, very powerful skill. So 2 very high damage dealing skills that can definitely destroy an opponent, and as you can see, the fact that they're doing so much damage means that this is definitely really good for pangolin and perhaps even groundhog, but it also has silencing, meaning that along with the damage, it can also do a lot of good stuff for you in PvP as well, making this an ant that works well in both PvP as well as groundhog and pangolin. Skill number 8 is like a cherry on the top, and you can see that during the battle, its squad deals 25% more damage. Again, already excellent for PvP and PvE, and 25% of extra damage is a lot of extra damage when we're talking about this ant, right? The 2 other damage dealing skills that we saw were doing so much damage, and now you're adding a 25% extra damage to that, making this so much more powerful. And every time it receives the buff, which includes healing or shield, the following attributes are enhanced. So now skill damage goes up by 8% anytime it receives any healing or shield, and skill damage reduction goes up by 8% as well, meaning that enemies do less damage to its squad. Again, 8% damage reduction. And then its healing effect received also goes up by 8%. So if you are receiving healing, it also makes the future healing even more effective, again by 8% at max star. The effect lasts the entire battle and can stack up to 4 times, which means 32% extra skill damage, 32% skill damage reduction from the enemies, and then 32% extra healing effect received by this unit. Again, you can already see this is a massive, and it's doing pretty much everything. It heals better, it takes in less damage, it does a ton of damage, it silences the enemy. This is an ant that you really want if you are a Guardian main. Now skill number 8 makes it work better with certain ants, right? You want to have ants that provide you with healing effects because you want to try to get this 32% skill damage, 32% skill damage reduction, and of course 32% extra healing effect as soon as possible, so you can do a lot more damage and take in much less damage and heal yourself much more effectively. And that's where the other 2 ants come in. Let's start with the front row that you should have it with. This is the MB. It's a jungle ant. It's a free ant, which you can easily get, assuming you get lucky enough. We're only going to talk about its special skills because that's what I want to focus on here. Skill number 2, in rounds 2, 4, 6, and 8, it reduces the damage taken by its own squad, by 30%, right? So you get to live it a longer, and since this is a front row ant, this can be quite helpful because you're going to be taking in all of the normal attacks and you want to survive longer. And then when it takes skill damage, there's a 70% chance to heal the squad with a healing ratio of 220. Now, this only is talking about its own squad, not all the other squads, but nevertheless, you want to make sure that the front row lasts longer, and hence the reduction in damage and the healing is helpful to allow you to live longer, right? As long as the front row is standing, you have a higher chance of making your back row survive longer and deal more damage. Skill number 5, 70% chance to deal 500% damage to one random enemy squad and confuse it for 1 round. Now this is a damage dealing skill, and confusion means that normal attacks targets are random, and I believe that means that they can target themselves, so the enemy might just be attacking themselves, allowing you to live longer again. Finally, skill number 8, triggered 1 time per round. Defense of all its squad goes up by 50%, and that's all squads, so all 3, and the received healing effect goes up by 7.5%, again for all of the squads, which includes the Iron Elephant, right, which already has a good healing effect received. So now you're adding extra to it, and it's stackable, and it lasts until the end of the battle. So this healing effect can stack by a lot. Now imagine with the Iron Elephant already getting some of these by itself, and now you're adding this to it. If you have a third ant that gives you a healing, you can heal yourself quite a lot. So what is that third ant going to be? And I guess it's no surprise, it's the other jungle ant, and let's talk about why. So skill number 2, 100% chance to deal 160% damage to all squads, while our own squad suffer 20% damage. A guaranteed hit to do a bunch of damage to the enemy while taking some damage yourself, which is fine because you have a lot of healing that you'll be getting, and your squads can take that damage. Skill number 5, every time all of our Guardian Ant squads receive damage 9 times, so you take damage and you take it 9 times, a random squad gains a shield effect. Shield, remember? Iron Elephant, every time it gets a shield, its skill number 8 triggers. And that's what makes it special, because now you have something to make it trigger the 8th skill. And what the shield does is that you become immune to the next damage, and you deal 450% damage to the attacker. So not just are you becoming immune, you're also dealing damage to the attacker. And then the count will be reset after this effect is released, and then 9 more damage, and you'll be back at it, giving another shield and doing this nice amount of damage. Skill number 8, finally you get that healing that you've been prepping for. 80% chance, which is a very high chance, to heal 2 random squads with a healing ratio of 180% and reduce the next skill damage they receive by 25% just for the next one. So a very high chance of providing 180% healing, but with all of those buffs that you're getting, especially with the Iron Elephant and the Rowan Ant, it's probably going to be a much higher healing. And not just that, you're also reducing skill damage they receive by 25%, and the Iron Elephant already has the abilities to reduce skill damage as well, and the Rowan Ant is already giving you certain things like extra defense. So overall, you can see that these 3 ants work so well together. You are tanking a lot, you're dealing a ton of damage, primarily because of the Iron Elephant, and then you're taking in much less damage, and then there's that healing effect going on, and your healing can be quite effective because of the way the ants work really well together. Now when it comes to the insects, of course one of the good options that you could choose would be the new Guardian insect, which is this one, and it does have the ability which allows you to receive 15% reduction in damage taken, and also the ability to put in 1 random control effect on the enemy for 1 round anytime you take in skill damage, right? So of course it's helpful because it allows you to live a little bit longer with the reduction in damage, and of course it is the latest generation of the paid ants, and it gives you a control probability as well. However, I still think that using the Deadleaf Mantis may be a little bit smarter here. Even though you're not going to have a shooter in your unit, the abilities of the Deadleaf Mantis to do a lot of extra skill damage seems to be working really well with the Iron Elephant. So I would probably pick the Deadleaf Mantis to try this unit out with. Of course, I'm not 100% certain. If you have both, you can try them both. I think the Deadleaf Mantis will do better because it is more of an aggressive insect, unlike the Guardian insect, which is more of a defensive insect. Now you're already building on a lot of aggressive stuff with the Iron Elephant, so you might as well just use the Deadleaf Mantis. So the new Guardian meta should look something like this. You got the Deadleaf Mantis, you got the 2 jungle ants, and then you got the Iron Elephant. Of course, this is the PvP Guardian meta. Now I want to show you the fact that I have some reports for the Iron Elephant used both in PvP and PvE. Now let's start with the PvE, and you're going to see the pangolin of Ukron on Guardian Day, right? So you can see Proata doing 843 million damage. You can see the hairy Panther, which is the Baron Guardian Ant, 814 million damage. And then, surprise, surprise, Iron Elephant, 1.8 billion damage. Way higher than both hairy Panther and Proata because, well, as you can imagine, it does a ton of damage. Now, he did use the exact same PvE unit with a different insect, of course, which I'm assuming he would have been better off if he used his main insect, but look at the damage that the Iron Elephant does here. Proata, 3,800 kills, not that impressive. Hairy Panther, 55,000 kills, pretty nice. And then you can see the Iron Elephant doing the bulk of the work all by itself, 177,000 kills. Of course, it should be noted that their first 2 were using T10 enhanced, and the last one was using seasoned soldier ants, so there is that element there as well. But as you can imagine, the amount of damage done by Iron Elephant is absolutely insane, right? And this isn't even the proper PvP unit, which really helps the Iron Elephant do more damage. Like if it was getting shields and healing, it would have been doing even more damage. Now, what if you are a free-to-play player and you do not have any of the paid ants? Well, in that case, replace the Iron Elephant with the hairy Panther. Hairy Panther does do a ton of damage by itself as well, and it has 3 damage dealing skills. Each of them do a reasonably high amount of damage. And as you can imagine, the other 2 ants need to be the 2 Guardian Jungle Ants because they do work really well together by themselves as well. So in that case, the hairy Panther becomes that damage dealer. It's not as effective as the Iron Elephant, as you can imagine. Well, it is a free ant and it's barren, it's not a jungle ant, but it still does the trick. So if you do not have the Iron Elephant and don't plan on buying it, you can use the hairy Panther in row number 3. And in terms of the insects, you can use a Guardian insect or one of the universal insects. I think both of them can do reasonably well with that unit. And since I still have you here, I do want you to know that you can get between 10 to 35% bonus on in-game purchases in the Ants Underground Kingdom. All you need to do is follow some simple steps that I'm linking to the video that you can find in the description of this this video and join a bunch of other people that are taking advantage of these amazing bonuses, including some whales that are ever so thankful because they save so much money when they make purchases in the Ants Underground Kingdom. If you have any questions, you can join our Discord and I can guide you through the process myself as well. So make sure you check out the video, make sure you're using the most up-to-date promo code. The current one is Sky8 and it's remaining valid until 20th of October. Close to 20th October, I'll let you know what the new promo code is, or maybe you might just have to enter the exact same promo code Sky8 again. That's something that I can tell you in Discord as well as in the community section of our YouTube channel. So if you go on our YouTube channel on a browser, you'll see a community section that you can click where I can actually make posts that you can read and find out what the latest promo codes are. And that covers the video. I hope this was helpful for you. If it was, please share it with your friends. Please like the video, please comment, and do subscribe to our channel and check out some of our other content as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.